Well, hey guys, it's Josh, just checking in on you guys here. I've been working on, playing around with Debian a little bit and messing around with stuff, dealing with this Linux challenge thing. And, I just figured I'd just, post an update video for what's going on here. So, first of all, let me switch over to the desktop, that way you guys can see what I'm looking at right now. Okay, that's a conflicting keybind, but alright. So, there's a member of the Linux cast community that made this neofetch configuration, and he posted it and it's like, hey man, can I get that? And he's like, yeah, sure, here's the code for it. And I'm like, oh, cool. I did have to install a nerd fonts, and you can see that my heater just turned on. Turn that off. But anyways, so this neofetch prompt does break down a couple things here. You can see that I guess it's showing off the colors like a normal neofetch would. And then you can see where I've got the operating system broke down. You can see that I'm using a newer kernel compared to the last time I posted a video where I shared a neofetch, because I decided I was going to update to a newer kernel. That way I could make use of the QuickSync encoder on my Intel CPU. And the main reason I want to do that is because you guys have seen the distro hacking streams where it's just like my video feed just gets like really fucked up sometimes. And honestly, that's an issue with relating to my AMD GPU because I was trying to hook the Mesa drivers to use that for encoding, which that's been kind of an issue. And because I run the distro hacking streams where it's just like I'm installing weird stuff all the time, like, Gen 2 for an example, I don't want to be relying on CPU rendering. So that's why I made the switch from my old AMD system to an Intel CPU system. And one of these days, I hope I can get this guy working for some H.265 action, or AV1 encoding, preferably AV1, but it does support H.265. But of course, I'm using Debian Stable, so I'm not going to get that for a while. But anyways, what happened with me here is that where you can see this message right down here where it says I had to reinstall one time. Well, I discovered, and I'm still working on isolating this, a possible bug with SDDM. If you don't know what SDDM is actually the display manager, or the tool that you use to log into your system. That's used by stock on KDE Plasma. And basically what happens is, and it's just the subject of a conversation that I've been having with a, he said that he wasn't a Debian developer, but a guy that works in the Debian project. I'm sorry. Keep getting stuff up out of my throat here. But anyways, what's going on is that he was helping me troubleshoot this, because if I install the Intel Media Driver package, or Debian calls it the Intel Media VA pack driver, which is supposed to enable the QuickSync support for Linux, it just completely breaks the graphical session for some reason, because now SDDM is instructing Xorg to render everything through the integrated GPU and not my dedicated GPU. Which is interesting because the motherboard disables the video output of the integrated GPU when you plug in a PCI Express video card. So I get no display output whatsoever. However, the weird thing is, I still have SDDM itself. So what it does is I have an SDDM system, which then I log into a black screen. And okay, well, this might be some kind of an issue with a 3D rendering. So let me go to let's install something that doesn't rely on the GPU for actual graphical acceleration of the desktop. So I installed OpenBox, and we tried to get SDDM to log into OpenBox. Same exact issue. Well, after some figuring around, I eventually gave up on SDDM and I switched to our Lord and Savior LightDM, which I can't really show you right now because I'm not necessarily capturing the actual display output of this machine. But if you've set up and installed like Arch Linux with the XFCE desktop or anything like that, you know what LightDM is, and you probably use it. I think Chris Titus has a YouTube video discussing like configuring LightDM. I think. But anyways, so I just figured I'd post this update as to why I had to reinstall. If you look back at the script, you can see where there's this included system here where it's just like the start time, the current time, the finish time. So I'm going to be on Debian Stable until August 14th because, you know, it's a 6-month test, and it gives me exactly how much time is remaining from the last time I ran neofetch. So if we clear that out and rerun neofetch, there it is. But, you know, I can show you this neofetch config, I guess. But you can see that it set some time information here. It is created by Technodaft over on the LinuxCast Discord. And you can see it's hooking the date command. It's using the stat command to verify the age of the root file system. You can use like other stuff too, but let's not worry about that. But you can see where he actually created variables for like how many times have we reinstalled. Well, I put the counter at 1 because that's how many times. Challenge completed, birth install plus month times 6. And you can see he does a little bit of time math here, and then he prints everything out here for you. Which, you know, it's actually pretty good work from what I'm seeing here. I'm not necessarily like an expert on figuring out like what config syntax neofetch uses, but because, you know, I've never had to worry about it. So I guess it's cool. But, you know, it's also just neofetch too, where normally I just install neofetch and I just run the command plain vanilla because, you know, that's what everybody else does. So it's not very often I actually look at a neofetch configuration. I put my hand on my coffee cup, so of course, by law, I have to take a sip of coffee. But anyways, let's talk about my experiences with KDE here. I know that I've said previously that I'm a bit of a GNOME guy, so you know, I'm a GNOME or a window manager guy. I don't deal with this Plasma stuff very often. And that's just because, you know, Plasma for the most part has been like the buggiest desktop environment in the world for me. And then I installed Debian Stable, where everything is working rock solid, perfectly fine. Then I find out Plasma 5.20. So I'm not going to get the new hotness anytime soon. But, you know, let's talk about Debian here. So, a big thing with Debian, let me get off of my Mastodon site here. And let's just look up this article called Don't Break Debian. All one word. And it's going to pull up this article here on the Debian Wiki. Which, if you take the time and you read it, it's going to tell you all the ways that you can deal with Debian. And it gives you the tenets of a working, properly functional, and stable Debian system. Where, you know, the very first thing that they define is FrankenDebian. That's where you just, you know, and download a deb from the internet and install the deb. So, like, the classical Windows user way of installing a package, or you know, enabling testing, the testing repository or the unstable repository, just install a package there and then switching back to stable. PPAs, enabling a repository for Mint and such. And then, of course, it's going to say here, don't use the GPU manufacturer installation scripts. So don't go to nvidia.com, download their script, and run /install NVIDIA. And then it says here, don't suffer from shiny new stuff syndrome. And this is actually a big deal with Debian, because Debian, you know, they will pin packages and hold them, and they will work on refining them up until like they meet a certain level of polish, and then they'll move on to the next package. It's not the fastest way to it's a very opposite approach of, you know, Arch Linux and the perceived rolling release model, which, I'll be making a website on like how I define a rolling release and actually how the definition is properly defined, because that is something that I think we should have a discussion about. But anyways, what they're saying is don't install the brand new package just because you want to use it. So when I said that I might not be using this GPU anytime in the next 6 months, I mean it. It's going to sit here in the box for the next 6 months, even though I bought it 3 months ago and I still have yet to actually make it work. And honestly, when you're looking to run Debian as your desktop operating system, it's because you care about the stability of your system to the point where it's just like you're willing to make the hardware sacrifice. So you're not going to go out and buy the latest gen hardware. You're going to buy, maybe the previous generation. They do work on backporting drivers and such, so you will still get hardware support. It just won't come nearly as quickly as you would get if you were to run something or anything like Arch Linux, Fedora, or anything like that. Here it says don't sudo make install. Sorry, suckless guys. Debian does not want you to use your software. Don't blindly follow bad advice. Don't just don't just curl and pipe into bash a script off of GitHub. It's true. And then here it says read the fantastic manuals. And if you're a guy that cares about documentation, you understand what the Arch Wiki is. You understand that the Gentoo Wiki exists, and that the Gentoo Wiki at times is a lot better than the Arch Wiki. But the Debian Wiki is also a fantastic resource. Honestly, that it's 1, 2, and 3. Those are the 3 wikis that you need to have bookmarked if you're like looking to become a Linux power user, or you're working as a system administrator, because those 3 wikis alone will complement each other, and you will actually learn quite a bit here off of just those 3, and you'll be pretty well settled. redhat.com, you can get some information off of that, but the website's actually kind of a mess if you don't know exactly where you're looking. Well, the Debian website could be better too, but it's not the worst. Here it says don't blindly remove software. Don't run a dpackage purge or anything like that. It might not be the best idea. It's better just use apt remove, apt auto remove, and most importantly, it's time you should take the time. Don't do Linus Tech Tips. And when you run something like auto remove, I don't know why I called install. So when you run something like auto remove, take time, read this line where it says packages are going to be removed, and what that is. That's a kernel. But if I don't know what I'm looking at here, I just see Linux image 5.10. So what if we just copy that, paste that into here, and you can see where it gives us details of a package. It says it's a package. Let's look at this here. You can see where this explains that it's the Debian kernel and modules for use on PCs with AMD 64, Intel 64 via 9.0 processors. That sounds kind of important. Also, fun fact, Debian supports secure boot. So it's just like, do I want to install that right now? Or, remove that right now? Doesn't my machine need a kernel? Take the time and figure that out. Obviously, I know that I don't need that. But at the same time, if I ls into my /boot directory, you can see I've got more than one kernel installed. I understand that VM Linux is the Linux kernel. That's the actual kernel on your system. It's in the /boot directory. So I know that that's 5.10.0.20, and it's wanting to remove 5.10.0.20. So honestly, I think this is actually fine for me to go ahead and complete this command. That's basically what that handbook is telling you to go through. Is just take the time, go through it, and just make sure that you're not going to pull a Linus Sebastian and completely remove your entire desktop installation just because you just blindly typed in the please do as I say suggestion that app said that you should call after you read the message. Here it's telling you read the package descriptions before installing. So don't just sudo apt install vim. Glad that I've already got it installed. So can I do neovim? Yeah, don't just blindly sudo apt install neovim. Take the time, look up the package, apt search neovim. Neovim, heavily refactored Vim fork. Do I really need a second copy of Vim? I already have Vim. Vim is nice as it is, so why do I need neovim? I'm sure that the neovim community is going to tell me that neovim is infinitely better than Vim, but I still just use Vim with like 2 plugins and hardly actually do anything inside Vim. So maybe I don't need that. Maybe. It also says here to take notes. Get one of these little guys. It's from the dollar store. Comes in a pack of 3 of them. Costs you like $1.25 at like the Dollar Tree. Go if you modify anything, take time, make sure that you can remember what you modified and why you modified it. It's just like I set up Btrfs on my Debian installation, and this is how I take snapshots. Because honestly, why else would you use Btrfs? But it also tells you how you can install software that's not available in the Debian Stable repository. So I'm not going to take the time to explain exactly how to get like the backports repository set up. Well, actually, I probably can. But that's how I got the 6.0 kernel installed. So basically what I did was I just did sudo vim /etc apt sources.list. And, I just went in and I added this line here on the bottom where I'm calling the deb package, the repository I'm connecting to, what repository I want out of it, bullseye backports, and I want to pull straight out of the main repository. Because backports does not support non-free or contributed software. I don't think. I'd have to do some research into that. And then in order to use backports, you just do sudo apt-t bullseye-backports, which bullseye is the Debian release name, because Debian doesn't rely on number releases, they do named releases. So it would be bullseye, Buster, and I think it's Jesse before Buster. It's been a hot minute since I actually looked long enough to care. So you just do sudo apt and apt-t to tell it that you want to pull from the backports repository if it's in there. And then I can just do install, and then I can just declare a package that's in there. Or, I can search for, like, say, Firefox and backports. And you'll see that it'll still search and index the stable repository. But if you look through this giant list of app lists where, I made the mistake of searching for Firefox and not a package with less references in it, you will see where it will pull out it will instead say something like Firefox /bullseye-backports. Of which I don't think normal Firefox is in backports, so tell you what we'll do is instead we'll look for Linux image-AMD64. There we go. So you can see where I call the format of the command is sudo apt-t bullseye-backports search Linux image AMD64, and you can see the output is Linux image AMD64 bullseye-backports. And of course, if I'm looking for, like I showed, you can see where I was looking for stuff and it was still showing me the stable repositories. So basically when you search like that, it's just going to show you the latest and greatest version. So that's what backport is. And then it says here that you can compile from source But if you keep sensitive, valuable, or non-replaceable data in your home directory, it might be a good idea to create another user account for the purpose. Well, basically what they're saying here is, if you are building software from source obtained otherwise than from Debian, run it as a normal user within your home directory. What do they mean by that? Well, what they're saying is when you compile your software, you want to compile it and set your prefix to .local/bin. Of which you can see that I don't have anything in there right now. So if I ls into .local, oh, I'm actually already in the repository. Thanks, bash. So .local/bin. And you can see in there that I've got some scripts that I placed into there, but you can also place program binaries into here. And, you know, that's where they're telling you to do it. Don't run it with sudo, where sudo will place it into /user bin or something along the root path. It's not a good idea to do that, because when you do that, it's basically just like installing and running RPM on Debian. You don't want to install RPMs on your Debian system, because apt might raise an issue here, going like, hey, I have no idea where this package came from, but I have something I'm going to put there, so I'm just going to overwrite it. And that's why you don't use multiple package managers. And then here they get to talking about like the containerized formats, where they're just like, yeah, this way also works, but we don't necessarily recommend doing it this way, because, you know, Debian then doesn't handle the updates directly themselves, so they don't want, they say that you can get away with and use containerized formats, but they can't really support those packages. That's basically what they're saying here. So I'm talking about stuff like that you install inside a virtual machine, Docker containers, flatpaks, and snaps. Yeah. That's what they're talking about here. And here they tell you how to get help. Or, well, how to get the most out of getting help. So, like, they tell you here, research the data on your own issue first. Google it. Provide and ask smart questions, which, you know, they give you a link to this website that doesn't have an HTTPS connection, and basically it's a giant article that tells you how you should ask an intelligent question. That's subject to opinion, but honestly, if you go out and you make a bug report, don't just say, hey, this thing doesn't work. That's how your bug report gets ignored, and Debian being as large of a project as it is, it's a pretty big deal. But anyways, if you get frustrated, don't take it out on the volunteers trying to help you. You know, just to go like, man, nothing you're saying here is actually working here. You're a fucking idiot or anything like that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't expect to be spoon-fed answers with a step-by-step guide. You know, don't go just like, hey, I'm trying to set up this new hard drive and attach it to my LVM container here. How can I expand LVM out to that? And it's like, well, you know, you can just Google how to expand LVM. And you can see I'm no longer using Brave Search, by the way, so the person that decided that was going to rage quit me, he can be happier that I'm now using a meta search engine like called Search instead of Brave, which, you know, this can't even index for Brave for some reason because it just caused that. But you can see that there are a lot of issues, there are a lot of explanations here on expanding LVM. So, you know, they're saying look it up yourself, learn how to do it, and you know, if you know how to answer a question, answer the question. That's called contributing. So, you know, if you're on Reddit and you see somebody going like, man, I can't figure out how this thing works, and you know exactly how it works, step in, explain. That's how you contribute to an upstream project, even if you're not even if you know you're not going to Debian.org, forking a package, compiling it yourself, adding features that might be missing, or fixing a bug, and then submitting that in a pull or merge request, or sending the patch up towards the Debian package developer. You don't have to do that. Basically, what they're saying is, be willing to help people. If you help somebody figure out how Debian works, that's good enough. That's actually what this guy here in Discord was helping me with here. He is contributing to Debian by not actually contributing directly to Debian. And honestly, I think that's awesome that he was willing to reach out to me and help, and help me a little bit, because it's been a hot minute since I actually ran a Debian system, and I honestly never seen an issue like that before. It's also been a while since I actually had to read an Xorg log. So it's actually that's how Debian wants you to do it. But anyways, guys, that's just my update on the Linux challenge. I know that Matt's posted a couple of videos about his switch to Red Core, and that's been a bit entertaining to watch him figure out how Red Core wants you to work versus how you know that Gentoo works, which he has a base knowledge of Gentoo. And at this point, he said, "Josh, next time we do this challenge, Josh, we're gonna have to do this challenge again sometime." And I'm like, "Yeah, next time I'll just let you pick my distro." And he's like, "Yeah, it's gonna be fucking Arch Linux." And I'm like, "Yeah, I understand." So I guess I better prepare myself to go straight from Debian to Arch Linux, and then hopefully run Arch Linux from middle of August to middle of February next year. But we'll look into that later. In the meantime, guys, I'm out of here. I'm not going to be posting to PeerTube ahead of time anymore. I'm just going to be relying on YouTube sync, because it's nice to only have to upload the video once. And I'll be seeing you guys next time. Home Lab series is probably going to be like the next video. Maybe. I don't know. Probably not. I've been promising it for way too long.